Tonight, Zuri was sound asleep, and Abeni knew it was her moment to strike. She tiptoed into Zuri's small, simple room, her eyes immediately locking on the amulet, resting on a table beside the bed. Abeni stared at the amulet, its soft golden glow lighting up the shadows around it. It seemed alive, pulsing gently, as if it were breathing. She hesitated for a moment, hearing a faint voice in her mind, a memory of Naya's warning. "Do not touch what does not belong to you," the voice seemed to whisper, but Abeni shook her head, pushing the thought away. "It's just a silly warning," she muttered to herself. "This amulet is mine now. I deserve it more than Zuri ever will." With a triumphant smirk, Abeni reached out and grabbed the amulet. The moment her fingers touched it, the glow flared brightly, lighting up the room. Abeni gasped, but clutched the amulet tighter, determined to keep it. As she slipped it around her neck, a strange, cold sensation spread through her body. At first she thought it was the power of the amulet flowing into her, and she laughed softly. "Now they'll see me," she whispered. "Now I'll be the most beautiful, the most powerful." But then the cold feeling turned into something darker. Abeni's laughter stopped as a sharp pain shot through her body. Her skin began to tingle, then burn. She looked at her hands and gasped in horror. The smooth, flawless skin she had always been so proud of was changing. Dark cracks spread across her fingers, and her nails turned black and twisted. She stumbled to a mirror in the room, and what she saw made her scream. Her once beautiful face was unrecognizable. Her skin had become rough and grey, her eyes sunken and shadowed. Her hair, once shining and full, was now brittle and thin, falling out in clumps. She touched her face, but the reflection in the mirror only confirmed her worst fears. The amulet's glow had faded, and now it hung cold and lifeless around her neck. Zuri woke with a start, her heart racing at the sound of the scream. She turned and saw Abeni crumpled on the floor, shaking with fear and pain. Zuri's eyes widened as she took in the sight of her stepsister's transformation. "Abeni, what have you done?" she asked, rushing to her side. Abeni couldn't speak at first, her tears falling onto the cold floor. Finally, she choked out, "The amulet. I thought it would make me beautiful." Zuri looked at Abeni with a mixture of sadness and pity. "The amulet's power is not for greed or vanity," Zuri said softly. "It is tied to the truth and to love. It was never meant to be stolen." Abeni buried her face in her hands, sobbing. She had ignored every warning, blinded by her jealousy and desire for power. Now she was paying the price. The villagers who had heard the commotion gathered outside the house, and when they saw Abeni, they gasped in shock. The once vain and beautiful girl was now unrecognizable, her appearance reflecting the greed and cruelty she had hidden for so long. Abeni tried to cover her face, but it was too late. The damage was done, and the curse had taken its toll. As Zuri watched her stepsister weep, she felt a deep sorrow. Abeni's downfall was the result of her own choices, but it was still painful to witness. Zuri realized that the amulet had not only protected her, but had also revealed the truth about those who sought to misuse its power. Abeni's greed had led her to this moment, and now she would have to face the consequences. Word of Abeni's downfall spread quickly through the village. People whispered about how her beauty had vanished overnight, and how she had been cursed by her own greed. The story reminded the villagers of the years they had suffered under Nia and Abeni's cruelty. They remembered how Nia taxed them heavily, how Abeni flaunted her riches while mocking their struggles, and how Zuri had always shown them kindness, even though she was treated poorly. The villagers began to see Zuri as a symbol of hope, someone who could bring about change. One by one, the villagers started gathering near Zuri's home. They were tired of Nia's rule and ready to stand up against her. They brought tools, banners, and loud voices, ready to demand justice. "We've had enough," an elder shouted. "Zuri should lead us. She is strong, fair, and kind. Everything Nia is not." The crowd cheered, their anger turning into determination. For the first time in years, they felt united and ready to fight for a better life. Nia watched from her window, her face pale. She could hear the villagers chanting Zuri's name, and fear crept into her heart. Her power had always come from fear and manipulation, but now the people were no longer afraid. Worse, she felt the curse that Nia had warned about growing stronger. Her hands trembled as dark veins crept up her arms, and her once pristine skin began to show signs of decay. Nia's wealth and beauty, the things she had sacrificed so much for, were slipping away. Desperate, Nia stormed out of the house and faced the crowd. "Go back to your homes," she shouted, trying to sound powerful. "I am still your ruler, and you will obey me." But her voice cracked, and the villagers didn't back down. Instead, they booed and shouted back at her. "We've had enough of your lies, Nia," someone yelled. "You've stolen from us, hurt us, and betrayed the kingdom. Zuri is our true leader." Nia's anger boiled over. She ordered her guards to disperse the crowd, but even they hesitated, seeing the villagers' determination and Zuri's calm strength. The guards lowered their weapons and stepped aside, unwilling to fight for a leader who had lost their respect. Nia's power was crumbling, and she knew it. She tried to scream at the villagers, but her voice faltered, as visions of Keone began to haunt her. She saw her late sister's face everywhere, a reminder of her betrayal. Meanwhile, Zuri stepped forward, her presence quiet but commanding. She held her mother's amulet in her hand, and its gentle glow seemed to calm the crowd. "We don't have to fight," Zuri said, her voice steady and kind. "This is our chance to rebuild the kingdom together, to create a place where everyone is treated with fairness and respect." The villagers cheered loudly, their faith in Zuri growing stronger. Nia, seeing her influence vanish before her eyes, retreated into the house, her heart filled with fear and regret. She felt the curse tightening its grip, stripping her of everything she had once cherished. Outside, the villagers rallied around Zuri, ready to follow her as their new leader. They believed in her vision of a better future and were ready to fight for it together. For the first time, the village felt alive with hope, and Zuri knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter for her people. Nia sat alone in her grand room, clutching a golden necklace that once symbolized her wealth and power. The cheers for Zuri outside grew louder, but inside, Nia's world was crumbling. Shadows danced on the walls, and as she stared into her reflection, she saw something that made her gasp. Her face looked older, her skin pale and cracked, as if the life was being drained from her. She tried to look away, but when she turned, there stood the vision of her late sister, Keone. Keone's eyes were filled with sorrow and pain. "Why, Nia?" the vision whispered. "Why did you betray me?" Nia backed away, her hands trembling. "You're not real," she shouted, but the vision didn't disappear. Instead, Keone's image seemed to follow her wherever she went. Every corner of the house seemed haunted by memories of the past, her betrayal, her greed, and the curse Nia had warned about. The curse began to show itself more clearly. The fine silks and jewels that Nia loved started to lose their shine, turning dull and lifeless. Her once beautiful house began to crumble, the walls cracking, and the air growing cold. Even the servants, who had once obeyed her every word, now avoided her, afraid of the darkness that seemed to surround her. Nia's power, wealth, and beauty, all the things she had sacrificed Keone for, were slipping away, leaving her with nothing but regret. While Nia's world fell apart, Zuri's life was beginning to bloom. The villagers looked to her for guidance, and she stepped into the role with quiet determination. Each day, she worked alongside the people, helping to repair broken homes and plant new crops. Her kindness and humility inspired everyone around her. They no longer saw her as the quiet girl who lived under Nia's thumb. They saw her as a true leader. At first, Zuri felt nervous. Could she really lead an entire village? But as she listened to the villagers' hopes and fears, she realized something important. Her strength didn't come from magic or the amulet around her neck. It came from her heart, her compassion, and her belief in a better future. The amulet, though powerful, was only a symbol of the courage and love she already carried inside her. Zuri began to speak out against the injustices that Nia and Abeni had caused. "This village belongs to all of us," she told the people. "We must work together to rebuild it, not with greed or cruelty, but with fairness and kindness." Her words lit a fire in the villagers, who now saw her as not just a leader, but a symbol of hope. Meanwhile, Nia, weakened by the curse, tried to hold on to what little power she had left. But Zuri stood firm, confronting her stepmother with a strength Nia had never seen before. "You can't control me anymore," Zuri said, her voice steady. "Your lies and greed are what destroyed you, not me." Nia, seeing the confidence in Zuri's eyes, felt her last shred of control slip away. With each passing day, Zuri grew stronger, not just as a leader, but as a person. She realized that the trials she had faced, her mother's loss, the years of mistreatment, and her journey to the forest had shaped her into someone who could rise above hatred and fear. The village thrived under her guidance, and for the first time in years, the people felt hope for a brighter future. Abeni sat in the corner of what used to be her grand room, now cold and bare. Her once beautiful face was now unrecognizable, and her heart was heavy with shame and regret. The people who used to admire her beauty avoided her, and she was left with nothing but her guilt. Abeni thought about all the times she had mocked Zuri, stolen from her, and tried to take what wasn't hers. The weight of her actions pressed down on her until she couldn't bear it any longer. One evening, Abeni gathered her courage and approached Zuri, who was helping the villagers rebuild a house. Abeni's steps were slow, and her head was bowed in shame. "Zuri," she said softly, her voice trembling. Zuri turned to see her stepsister, tears streaming down her face. Abeni fell to her knees. "I was wrong," she cried. "I let my jealousy and greed control me. I hurt you in so many ways, and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to ask for it." Zuri looked at Abeni, her heart torn. She could see the pain in her stepsister's eyes and knew it was real. "Abeni," Zuri said gently, kneeling beside her, "I forgive you, not because what you did was right, but because holding on to anger won't help either of us. But forgiveness is just the beginning. True change has to come from you. You have to want to be better, not for me, but for yourself." Abeni sobbed, clutching Zuri's hands. "I'll try," she whispered. "I don't want to be that person anymore." Zuri nodded, offering her a small smile. "Then start by helping others. It's never too late to make things right." Abeni's heart felt lighter for the first time in ages, and she vowed to work hard to rebuild what she had destroyed. Nia's desperation grew as the curse took its full hold on her. Her once grand home was now in ruins, her beauty gone, and her power stripped away. She was haunted day and night by visions of Keone and the people she had wronged. She couldn't escape the whispers of her past, and her guilt gnawed at her like a hungry beast. Finally, with no other options, Nia decided to confront Nia, the enchantress. Under the shadow of the full moon, Nia made her way into the forbidden forest. The once proud woman now walked with trembling steps, her body weak and frail. When she reached Nia's clearing, she fell to her knees before the enchantress, who stood tall and calm, her eyes glowing like embers. "Please," Nia begged, her voice cracked and broken. "Undo the curse. I'll do anything you ask. Just take it away." Nia looked down at Nia, her expression unreadable. "Anything?" she asked softly. "Would you bring back the life you stole? Would you erase the pain you caused? Can you undo the betrayal of your own sister?" Nia's head dropped as tears streamed down her face. "I can't," she whispered. "I was blinded by greed. I didn't see what I was destroying until it was too late." Nia stepped closer, her voice firm but not unkind. "You were warned, Nia. I told you the curse would come for you. You chose to ignore it because you thought you were untouchable. Now, you must live with the consequences." Nia sobbed harder, clutching the ground. "Please show mercy," she begged. But Nia shook her head. "Mercy is not mine to give. The pain you caused will not disappear just because you regret it now. You must face the life you created for yourself." With that, Nia turned away, her figure fading into the shadows of the forest, leaving Nia alone. Nia returned to the village, her wealth and beauty gone forever. The people who once feared her now pitied her, and she spent her days in solitude, haunted by the choices that led to her downfall. Her punishment was not just the loss of her power, but the endless reminder of what she had sacrificed to gain it. The day of Zuri's coronation was bright and filled with hope. The villagers gathered in the town square, decorating it with colourful fabrics and flowers. There was a buzz of excitement in the air as everyone prepared to crown Zuri, the true heir to the throne. For years the kingdom had been ruled by greed and cruelty, but now the people believed in a future of kindness and fairness. As Zuri walked through the crowd, wearing a simple but elegant gown, the villagers cheered for her. She carried herself with quiet strength, her mother's amulet glowing softly around her neck. The village elder stepped forward, holding the royal crown that had once belonged to Zuri's mother, Keone. "Today," he said, his voice steady, "we honour the legacy of Queen Keone and crown her daughter Zuri as our rightful queen." The crown was placed on Zuri's head, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Zuri looked out at her people, her heart swelling with gratitude. She knew this moment wasn't just about her. It was about the hope and strength of everyone who had stood by her side. From that day on, Zuri ruled with kindness and wisdom, ensuring that the kingdom entered a new era of peace and prosperity. Abeni, humbled by her fall, worked tirelessly to prove she had changed. She helped Zuri rebuild the kingdom, using her energy to mend the damage caused by her and her mother's actions. Abeni visited the villagers she had once mocked, offering apologies and assistance. Though it wasn't easy, her sincerity began to earn her forgiveness. Over time, her relationship with Zuri also healed. The two sisters, once divided by jealousy and cruelty, grew closer as they worked together for the good of the kingdom. Nia, on the other hand, lived out her days in solitude. Stripped of her wealth and power, she spent her time reflecting on her mistakes. She often thought about the choices that had led to her downfall and the pain she had caused. Though she was no longer feared or respected, She quietly hoped that Zuri's reign would bring the peace and happiness that she had failed to provide. One evening, Zuri stood on the palace balcony, looking out at her kingdom. The fields were green, the village was bustling with life, and laughter echoed in the streets. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything she had been through, the trials she had faced, her mother's loss, the years of mistreatment, and her journey to uncover the truth had shaped her into the person she was now. As she thought about her journey, Zuri reflected on the lessons she had learned. Kindness, she realized, was her greatest strength. Forgiveness had allowed her to heal, and the downfall of Nia and Abeni's greed had shown her the importance of humility. Her story was a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and goodness could prevail. With a smile, Zuri turned back toward the palace, ready to continue her work as queen. The kingdom, united under her rule, flourished in peace and prosperity. And so, Zuri's story came to an end, a tale of kindness, forgiveness, and the triumph of love over greed.